Jai Mahamaya ki Jai. Bole Baba ki Jai. In yesterday's discourse, we read the end of the story of Ekavira and Ekavali, and read about the origin of the Haihaya dynasty. We'll move on to chapter 24. The king Janamejaya said, "O Veda Vyasa, I am not satiated with the drink of the divine sweet nectar-like words coming out of your lotus mouth. You have described to me in detail the wonderful and variegated story of the origin of the Haihaya dynasty, but, O Muni, there has arisen in my mind a curiosity to know something more on this subject. See, the Bhagavan Vishnu, the Lord of Lakshmi, the Deva of Devas, the ruler of this whole universe and the cause of the creation, preservation, and destruction, yet that best of Purusha, Sri Vishnu, had to assume a horse form. He is undecaying and independent. How then he became so dependent? Clear the doubt of my mind, O best of Munis. You are omniscient. Therefore satisfy my curiosity by describing this wonderful events." Veda Vyasa said, "O king, hear what I heard of yore from Narada, how this doubt was removed. The mind-born son of Brahma, Maharishi Narada, got powers to go everywhere by virtue of his tapasya, could know everything, was of calm and quiet nature, dear to all, and he was a poet. On one occasion, he went out on tour around the world playing with his lute in time with Svar and Tana. One day he came to my ashram singing many things concerning Bharat, Sama, Veda, and the sweet nectar-like Gayatri, the giver of liberation. O king, there was a very sacred place of hermitage, beaming, as it were, with happiness and self-knowledge, named Samya Prasa on the banks of the river Saraswati. There was situated my hermitage. Seeing the illustrious Narada Rishi, the son of the grandsire Brahma, coming, I got up and offered him duly water to wash his feet and offered worship to him. When that Muni of indomitable luster took his seat on the asan, I sat beside him. When I found Narada, the giver of knowledge, at rest and quiet, I duly asked him the very same question that you have asked me just now. O best of Munis, what happiness is there on the beings taking their birth in this world? I never found it in any place or in any concern. This I can say positively. Still, why do the high-minded persons do karma, fascinated by the enchantments of the world? Look, I was born in an island. Just after my birth, my mother forsook me. Helpless, I grew inside the forest as my karma allowed. Next, I performed a very severe tapasya before Mahadeva, the Deva of Devas, on the mountains, with the desire to have a son. As a fruit of that, I got Sukha, my son, the foremost of the Gnostics, and taught him completely the essence of the Vedas from the beginning to the end. O Devarsi, when my son got wisdom from you, he left this world even when I became very distressed on his bereavement and wept aloud, and he went away to do the next world. Very much affected for the parting of my son, I abandoned the great mountain Meru. I got very lean due to the absence of my dear son, whom I loved very much, and becoming very distressed and knowing this whole world to be an illusion, I remembered my mother and went to the Kurujangala district as if bound up and controlled by the snares of Maya. When I heard that the king Santanu had married my mother, I built my hermitage on the holy banks of the Saraswati and remained there. When the king Santanu went to the next world, my chaste mother remained with 2 sons. At that time, Bhisma looked after their sustenance and maintained them. The intelligent Ganga's son Bhisma Deva installed Chitraganda on the throne. A short while after this, Chitraganda, too, looking like a second Cupid and extremely lovely, went to the jaws of death. The mother Satyavati was drowned in sorrows for his son and began to weep for him. Knowing my mother in this sorrowful condition, I went to her. Bhisma and I then consoled her with hopeful words. Bhisma Deva was adverse to marrying and then becoming a king, and therefore he installed again the younger brother, the powerful Vishravirya, on the throne. O king, Bhisma defeated by his own powers the kings and brought the two daughters of the king Kasiraj and handed them over to Satyavati so that she might give them over to her son. Then on an auspicious day and an auspicious moment, when the marriage ceremony of my brother was performed, I became glad. My brother, a good archer, was shortly afterwards attached with consumption, and thus he died without any issue. At this my mother became very sad and dejected. Seeing the husband dead, the two daughters became ready to preserve their religion of chastity and said to their mother-in-law, sorrowful and weeping, "We too shall accompany our husband and become sati, burnt up with our husbands. O Devi, we will go to the heavens with your son. We, the two sisters united, will enjoy with him in the Nandana garden." The mother is very much attached to them, and with the permission of Bhisma Deva, very affectionately made them desist from their great attempt. When all the funeral observations were over, my mother consulted with Bhisma and remembered me in Hastinagara. As soon as she remembered me, immediately I knew her mental feelings and hurriedly came there. And my head bowed, fell prostrate at her feet, with folded hands, addressed my mother, who was very much inflamed with the flames of sorrow right at the death of her two sons. Thus, O mother, why have you called me here? Mentally, I see you are very much dejected. I am your servant. Order me, what can I do for you? O mother, you are my greatest place of pilgrimage, and you are my highest deity. I am very anxious since I have come here. Say what you desire. When I said thus and waited before her, then she looked at Bhisma standing close by and said, O child, our brother died of consumption. Therefore, I am very sorrowful lest the family becomes extinct. O intelligent one, for the continuation of line, then with the permission of Ganga's son, I have called you here today by the Samadhi Yoga. O son of Parasara, you reestablish the name of Santanu that is going now to be well nigh extinct. O Veda Vyasa, relieve me soon from the sorrow of mine, lest this line be extinct. There are the two daughters of Kasiraja, honest and good, and endowed with youth and beauty. O highly intelligent one, better you cohabitate with them and save the family of Bharata by begetting sons. They will not be touched with any sin. Hearing the mother's words, I became very anxious and humbly told her with great shame, O mother, to touch another's wife is a very sinful act, knowing well the path of Dharma. How can I willingly and intentionally violate that? So also the Maharishis say that the wife of a younger brother is like a daughter. Studying all the Vedas, how can I do this blameworthy and adulterous act? To preserve a line of family by illegal ways is never to be done, for then the fathers and the sinners can never cross this ocean of the world. How can he, who is the spiritual preceptor of all and the writer of all the Puranas, do this act knowingly, which is awfully strange and very bad and nasty in its nature? My mother was very much plunged into the sea of sorrows for the bereavement of her son. So to preserve the family, she came again to me, weeping, and said, O son of Parasara, if you follow my words, you won't incur any sins. O child, if the reasonable words of the gurus be even faulty, one should obey them according to the traditions of the sistas. Therefore, O child, keep my word and preserve my honor. No sin will touch you. O child, think very well. Your mother is very sorry and is immersed in the ocean of afflictions. Therefore, it is your paramount duty to make her happy by begetting child for this continuance of the family. Hearing my mother speaking to me thus, Bhishma, the Ganga's son, the expert in finding out truth in the fine points with regards to the Dharma, said to me, O Veda Vyasa, you are wholly sinless. You are wholly sinless. You ought not, therefore, to argue on this point. Obey your mother, as she says, and be happy. Hearing his words and my mother's request, I decided to do this very hateful act with a fearless heart, without any suspicion. When Ambika finished her ablutions after her period time, I gladly cohabitated with her in the night. But that young lady, seeing my ugly ascetic form, was not attached to me. I then accursed that beautiful woman thus, as you have closed your eyes at the first cohabitation with me, your son will be born blind. On the second day, my mother inquired me when I was alone, O Veda Vyasa, will there be born a son, the daughter of the Kasiraja? I then bowed my head with shame and told mother, the son will be born blind through my curse. The mother then rebuked me harshly, O child, why did you curse that son of Ambika would be born blind? Here ends the 24th chapter in the 6th book on the description of the discourse between Vyasa and Narada in the Mahapurana Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharishi Veda Vyasa. Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai, Vishveshwari Mata ki jai.